Hello guys, today we're going to be presenting our little app called Whendor. And to start things off, allow us to introduce ourselves. So, I'm Jamie.
I'm Shu.
I'm Michael.
I'm Taza.
And I'm Julia.
So what exactly is Whendor? Well, while growing up in New York City, I noticed that street vendors were often overlooked and that they need more reach. So Whendor is designed to basically help vendors make more profits. And how exactly this is done? Well, our app has two main functions, and that's basically logging in as a vendor, in which you can basically display your information, such as your location, your menu, your contact info, and then as a user, in which you can log in and then look at the vendor's information, and hopefully with that information find your way to them and buy some things from them. And now we're going to present our demo.
Good. And as I go ahead and share our demo here, I'd like to say that a member of our team, Terry, was unable to make it. He is currently sick. So that is why he is not here at the moment.
So let's say I'm a new user. First, I will go to sign up. Let me sign up as a new user. Say, select user, sign up. Let's do Julia, Julia, and then email julia@gmail.com. And then username, let's just keep it as Julia. And then password as Julia123. And let's just hit sign up from here. And what this will do is create a user account. And now let's just sign up as a user. So Julia123. Let's make sure we click that checkbox and let's log in. Awesome. We're logged in. And now we can access some functionality within the after logging in.
All right, so now we're going to see the main function, which is the actual displayment of the vendors. So here you have the categories page. You have 5 different categories: food, produce, accessories, art, and other. So if we go to the food subcategories, let's go to fast food. You can see actual vendors from the database. So for example, here we have a vendor who's named Jimmy Onions, and right under that, another vendor who goes by Zorelma. Now if we go back to the vendors page, and we go to a different subcategory, so food subcategories, and then we go to breakfast. You can see different vendors from the database that basically have breakfast as their subcategory.
And I'd go ahead and like to point out that we have implemented a report functionality. If you click report here, it takes note of the account, that in this case Julia, as well as the actual vendor being reported. In this case, it'd be Ali, and stores it in a database. If we go ahead and report here, it actually checks and prevents repeat reports. As you can see, it's still processing the previous report. But if we report this other account, the report still goes through. In addition, the display menu for these vendors checks if there are no vendors on the site. And if there are no vendors under that particular subcategory, it displays as such.
Now, if you go to the page that lists all the vendors, if you click on one of the vendors, this will take you to a specific page that is associated with the vendor, and it contains a carousel that will be able to display all of the images that the vendor decides to put up. as well as all of the relevant information such as category, subcategory, location, hours of business, and a menu. Also a followers button where you can click into it. Currently, we don't have any users following this vendor, so these are just some dummy followers. Now, if you go to the user profile page, this is a place where you can view all of the vendors that you are following with the relevant username displayed on this page. If you scroll down, you will see a list of vendors that are put into grid form, each of which, if you press into it, will take you to a specific vendor that you decided to follow. Over here, you can also see the edit profile page. When you click into this page, this is where you're able to edit the information such as full name, username, email, as well as updating your password if you decided to. Pressing Save Changes will update the information in the database and display all of the new information on this page. One more button on this page is the following. Clicking into here, you're able to see a list view of all of the vendors that you follow. So these are just some dummy vendors since our user hasn't followed any.
Okay, so this is the view as a vendor. If we log in and we don't check the user box, then if you click to the vendor profile, then you'll get a different view where you can edit your vendor information. So if you click vendor profile, you see this is my vendor that I set up before. He sells mustard, and let's click on the edit profile and put some new data in there. So let's maybe lower his mustard price a little. We can change the menu, and if we save the changes now, then you'll see this message and it successfully updated the information here. So now, since we're logged in as a vendor, if you were to try to click user profile and say change Julia's password, it'll give you this error. You don't have access to this, so that you can't mess with their data. And then at the bottom of this navigation, you can see there's an about page. And this is just a static page with some information about our team. And similarly at the bottom, we have another button, Contact Us. And this is where you can leave feedback that will go to our email. And you can try putting in an email and submit without a message. You'll see that it gives you this error. So make sure you leave us a note if you want to contact us. And once you submit this, you'll see the success page. And that is the end of our app.
Yeah, so coming into this project, I did not necessarily expect to know all the skills that were necessary. I had no prior web development experience, and that was indeed, I suppose, the kind of outlook I had for the entire thing. I was playing a lot of catch up, a lot of independent study was needed in order to make this work. But I think that was honestly for the better, because generally when it comes to learning these sorts of skills, learning them in a classroom is not the same as learning it on your own. So I really appreciate that I was given the opportunity to learn them on my own in the manner that this class, facilitates. Now, don't get me wrong, we had a lot of particular issues. I remember, in particular, when we were implementing the back end, we had a lot of cores issues, and troubleshooting that was a nightmare. But all in all, I think that coming out of this, we learned how to better function as a team in a software setting, because that's not necessarily something taught in a classroom usually. Came out of this with a better understanding of web development, and all in all, came out of this with better experience as a software engineer.
Yeah, similar for me. I think the main thing that I learned from this project is working in a team and the importance of being flexible and organizing your workload. For me, I had done an internship in software engineering, but that ended up being a very different experience than this class. This class, I think, pushed me out of my comfort zone technically further. And with an internship, you don't necessarily get the same design and organization experience. So that's something that I think this class is unique in, and that it helped me a lot with. With the project, technically, I think the main challenge was some of the logic choices with integrating the database, because with the keeping in mind like the user stories and the user experience, you don't necessarily want every page to be connected to the database. So there has to be some sort of decision made with which page you can access, with which login credentials, or if you're logged out, do we still want users to be able to view the vendor data, that type of thing? And yeah, I think the main thing that was unique for me is working in a team environment and getting used to the regular communication. And I think the most important thing I learned is that you have to be, you can't be too optimistic. You have to anticipate delays. You have to be flexible and recognize that the workload isn't going to be even every week. People are going to have to take on more in order to get the project done. And yeah, that was the most important takeaway for me.
Similar to Michael, I also came into this class with no web development experiences, so I think it was pretty helpful in grasping all of the topics that is actually used in real-life software engineering. However, I do think that the biggest challenge for me and throughout the entire semester was to pick up on these different technology stacks, just because there are so many, and moving through the sprints is quite difficult because there are so many things to be done in such a limited amount of time. But we were able to get a project out in the end, and I think that was through our team's cooperation as well as communication with each other on Slack. Takeaway from this class mainly is that, similar to what Julia said, never be too optimistic. At the beginning, when we were planning our project, we had a lot of features and user stories that we wanted to implement, but as time went on, we realized that there was just not enough time to finish all of it. So particularly, I was assigned and I took on myself the search functionality for searching the vendors, but after trying to implement it, it was definitely takes much more than I expected, so I wasn't able to finish that on time. But overall, I did take away a lot from this class, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, just adding on to Hugh's point, with the user stories, a big part of my design choices was keeping in mind, like, we want to highlight certain vendors more than others, maybe vendors who are with a lower reach or who are newer, that type of thing. But you know, in the end, that wasn't something we were able to implement given the time constraints. But it's definitely something that I would want to keep in mind if I were to continue this project in the future.
All right. So when it came to working on Whendor, it was a rather unique experience, such that many of the things that we implemented were rather new to me, such as like working with React and Express and MongoDB. But it was also a time-consuming, but also I don't know, it's somewhat one nice experience in that I got to, I guess, learn how to use these things, although most of the times I had to teach myself how to do it. But I think in the end, the final product, it wasn't exactly what we wanted, but it's something, all right? So I think that this experience, I guess, helped me to learn what it was like to work in a agile software environment, and just how to use Git and GitHub. And I think I did learn a lot from this class, which I truly appreciate.